into the brick of bracken bramble, shadowed streets and wobbly men.
The words of the late great Canadian poet Patrick O'Connell are coming to life.
I dreamt I'd went homeless again, into the grip of wired wackos. I met Patrick one night. He'd come in and it was very quiet, and he just struck me as somebody down on his luck. And I remember there being almost nobody in there, and the cook, who was a good friend of mine, I had asked him to just make up some sort of dinner, whatever he wanted to do, and I took it out to Patrick, and he was very sweet and gracious. And a couple days later, he came back and brought me a thank you gift, which was a Border Crossings magazine, the local arts magazine, and we chatted for a minute, and he left. And I was reading it later that night, and I got to the middle section. It was a big feature on his life and work, and I couldn't believe it. And so, the next time I saw him, we talked a little more, and I told him I was a writer as well, and it kind of started there. It's sad to see the summer go.
Nolan and O'Connell were friends for more than a decade, and when the poet passed away, it was always in the back of Nolan's mind to compose music for O'Connell's poems. And after getting a blessing from O'Connell's former partner, Nolan went to work.
Just artistically, I mean, it was a daunting thing. You're messing with somebody's work. Catherine Hunter, I believe it was, at his wake, talked about being an editor on one of his books. And I'll never forget her saying his manuscripts were among the cleanest she'd ever set out to edit. And she said, I really did next to nothing. So, here's me cannibalizing his work in some respects. But I don't know what it was, the catalyst, but I dove back in, and I felt like I'd pulled it off. And I played it for people in my close inner circle, and the response was strong, so I kept going with it, and I feel tremendously proud of how it's all come together, and it's still intimidating.
This project has had a profound effect on Nolan personally.
I disciplined myself to, I'd get up and read his material each morning before I did anything else, and I would take a break and make breakfast, and then I would write and edit for several hours. Come to the studio in the afternoon, work on melody and arrangements, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays I reunited with Lance McMaster, who I produced my very first record with and who built the studio for me. It was just interesting how it kind of starts to take on a life of its own a little bit, and I've reached out to other writers, poets, songwriters that I greatly admire, and I've shared this material, and I've gotten really strong feedback. One friend of mine, Jesse DiNatale, who we've had on the show together, he commented to me on the phone that he felt that it in some ways could be unprecedented. He said he couldn't think of another example where a songwriter had been given that invitation, and I don't know if that made me feel better or more intimidated.
Nolan reflects on the tumultuous times O'Connell would experience with his mental illness, addictions, and homelessness.
All the efforts between medication, hospitalization, self-medicating, homelessness, nothing really carried him the way writing a piece of poetry that he was proud of. And I would, the years we were friends, I would be on call, like I could get a call at 5:30 in the morning. And his expectation was that I was really going to listen. He could tell if I was not listening the way he'd hoped. And I marveled at how something so simple, or seemingly so simple, he could coast the whole day on that.
Nolan takes O'Connell's books whenever he's on the road, passing them on to other artists and spreading the poet's inspiration.
John Sampson from the Weekend Ends, who I admire, came out to our opening night at Goodwill and wrote me a note commenting on the Patrick stuff. I mean, that's it for me. That's the reward, to have the blessing and consideration of of my peers, you know, like that means a lot and gives me the sense that, hopefully I've done right by his reputation.
For Go Winnipeg, I'm Tracy Koga.